welcome you to another live edition of the Sports Box, brought to you by our sponsor, Showcase Sports in Hammonton. Showcase Sports for the elite athlete. And by our friends over at CrowdPlay. Download the free CrowdPlay app today and check them out at www.crowdplayapp.com for details. Ladies and gentlemen, it's showtime.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the flagship, the mothership, and everything in between. Only on the Sports Box Network, I am the Hammonton Michaeletta, along with my partner in crime, Brian, the Ranger Tard. And this is the highly opinionated show that you've waited for all week. And we got a great show for you tonight. Tonight is our guest that I'm very proud to introduce as a Flyers fan. He was drafted in the first round, 8th overall in the 1985 draft by the Detroit Red Wings, but he made a nice stop in Philadelphia, did a lot for this team, and was a part of the Crazy Eights line with Eric Lindros and Mark Recchi. Let's bring him on and talk to the one, the only, Brent Fedyk. Brent, what's up, pal?
Not too much. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure talking to a Flyer and a pro at the same. So, Brett, let's get right to it. Your stint in Philadelphia, like I said in the intro, you played with Eric Lindros, you played with Recchi, Brindy. Tell us when you came here. You came here in '92. Tell us how it was when you got here, the trade from Detroit to here.
The reason I ended up going to Philly, Bill Dineen coached me in the minors in Adirondack. So he's the one that was trying to get me there. And it was awkward because that morning when I got traded, I went to practice for the Red Wings. And that evening I played for the Flyers. And Jersey. And, I'd close my eyes and I'd open them up and there's two colors I didn't recognize. I'm like, which team am I on? So,
yeah, I guess that's life in the NHL, though. It's a business, and unfortunately, when a trade happens, it happens. What went through your mind when you got traded? Were you kind of upset about it? Did you understand about it, or be excited to go to Philly? Or
well, you always like a new opportunity, and it just so happened when I got traded. I remember when I got in. I think I got in around 3:00 or something like that, and Bobby Clark talked to me. And he asked me if I had played left wing. And I'm like, well, why did, because basically you should kind of know whether I can play left wing or not, which I'd never had before. But it just so happened Pelle Eklund got injured, and he was playing with Lindros and Recchi. So with the opportunity to play with those two guys, I told Bobby Clark, heck, I played half the season last year on the left side. I'm going to leave an opportunity like that go away or leave me. So I remember in warm-up trying to get Recchi to shoot some pucks around the board so I could get used to it. So that was the first time I really ever played left wing.
We have a question coming in from the viewers. Anthony wants to know, who was the most talented player that you played with? And going through your career, Brent, we did some research on you, obviously. There's really been some great players that you've shared a jersey with. I mean, obviously coming up in Detroit, your first full season there as a full-time NHLer, Yzerman and Fedorov, we're starting the upswing for the Red Wings there. Obviously, your time in Philadelphia with the line that you played on. You spent time in Dallas with Mike Modano, and of course with Wayne Gretzky with the Rangers in your final season. So there's a really deep pool of players that, you can say you've shared a locker room with. Who would you say is the most talented of the bunch?
Well, they're all very talented. Obviously, I got to play a lot with Recchi and Lindros. But it had to be after I fractured my neck, and I came back after training for a few years. And I came just as a tryout with the Rangers. And in the practice facility, the trainer takes me up and he goes, how about that stall? And it was next to Wayne Gretzky's. So I was like a kid in a candy store because he was always like an unbelievable player. And even at that age, I mean, he could do things that were just amazing. I mean, I can't imagine, in his prime, because whenever he passed the puck to you in the slot or whatever, it was always in the perfect spot that you could get the most on your shot. And it was just amazing how quick and how he saw the ice.
Yeah. So, Brett, coming up, and I go back to the Flyers because, like I said, I used to watch you all the time. I used to, there's no history to me. I used to sit down every Flyers game with a Domino's pizza and watch you guys play. And whether you guys were on the coast, West Coast playing Vancouver, or East Coast early game, I was watching every single game with you guys. I love the Flyers. So, but watching when you played in Detroit, a lot of fighting's out of the game right now, and it's kind of getting taken away a little bit, which I kind of don't like that. But you played with one of the heavyweights in the league, and Bobby Probert. And what was it like to play with a guy like Bobby Probert, who more than likely you knew went out on the ice and was going to just beat the hell out of somebody?
Well, actually, when I played there, we had Probert and we also had Kosher. So we probably had the best 1-2 punch ever in the league.
Yeah.
And one guy even came close to doing anything. As soon as he got out of the box, he had to fight the other one. And they were big. I mean, I didn't get to play a whole lot in Detroit, so I had a front row seat. It was amazing.
Yeah. I think Basil McRae was there at one time too. So yeah, there's some big heavyweights that went through Detroit.
Absolutely.
What about to a next point of that question? What about when you played in Philadelphia? You had Dave Brown there. You had some heavyweights there. Who would you say is the biggest heavyweight in Philadelphia?
Dave Brown, no doubt. I mean, the great thing about Dave Brown, he used to have parties at his house all the time, like team parties.
Yeah.
And then the guys that won the Stanley Cup, the Broad Street Bullies, that's 73, 74. Well, towards the end of the party, all of those guys would show up. And we'd be sitting around a fire telling stories. I mean, we had good stories. Those guys had incredible stories.
So when you made the move from Detroit to Philadelphia, that's really kind of where, your numbers, your statistics really kind of blew up. And, you got a chance to play with great players, future Hall of Famers and Lindros and Recchi, but, you had back-to-back 20-goal seasons for a young team. And you were there, for Lindros's debut after the whole rigmarole with Quebec and the trade between the Flyers and the Rangers. Where was he going to go? Ended up in Philly. What was that experience like, to be on a team like that with that kind of, I don't want to use the word sideshow because that's not really what I mean, but that sort of media attention on this kid from Canada who was supposed to be the next big thing. And then everything went wrong with the draft pick. But, that it felt like that was his Flyers team from the jump.
Yeah, it definitely was. And I got to play with Wayne Gretzky, and Wayne Gretzky always had like a publicist that would kind of shield him a little bit. It was unfortunate that Lindros, when he came in, he didn't have anybody really doing that. Sometimes especially with Wayne Gretzky, they pretty much had maybe 10, 15 minutes with him. And then a guy would come grab him and say, hey, listen, we got to go do that TV thing. You only have like 2 minutes left. Well, Eric didn't have that, so he'd have to wait around sometimes and do like 20 different interviews where they all could have done it at one time. So it was very difficult for him. I thought he did a great job, but I do remember our first game in Quebec. We went there for an exhibition game, and it was funny because Lindros was skating around the ice in our own zone, and no one would come near him within like 30, 40 feet because they were throwing batteries and everything. I know in the warm-up once we were doing the 3-on-2 drill, and I'm like, get the hell away from me. I don't want you to talk in the dressing room to me. Because they were throwing like D-cell batteries from the top level. So they were mean to him.
We always talk about Philadelphia. They played for some tough coaches and things like that. And they did go to a Stanley Cup, obviously, with one of the toughest coaches in the league, and Brian knows who I'm talking about because he had him for a little while. Mm-hmm. But you played for Bill Dineen. Can you tell a little bit, how was it like playing for Coach Dineen?
He was one of those greatest old school guys. He was absolutely a legend. I mean, I have he was unbelievable to me and to our teammates. He was just a solid coach.
So being a first-round pick, a pretty high first-round pick back in 1985, we in today's age have a certain view of what, we think drafts are like. I think that over the years, they've become more, events where they get the TV coverage and everything. It's more of an event than it used to be. Kind of give us some insight as to, what was your draft experience like, thinking back to the 85 season?
Well, my draft experience was very good, but unfortunately, just as I got drafted, that's when the college signings started happening. And the big two guys that Detroit ended up, three guys, was Adam Oates, Chris Yaki, and Ray Stazak. And so they kind of got an opportunity before I did, coming out of junior, because they were older and everything. So I didn't get an opportunity to play much. I actually had to go to the minors and learn defense and everything, where I was the goal scorer.
Is that kind of why there was that period of time early on in your career where you kind of bounced back and forth between Detroit and Adirondack? Because it wasn't really until about 1990 that you really got a full-time spot on the pro roster.
And actually, Bill Dineen was my coach, and he kind of, let me play offensive. And I think I had 40 goals that year, and we won the championship. And then the next year I was in Detroit.
So you played with Tim Shovelday in Detroit. You played with a various guys with the Flyers and way of Dominic Roussel, Tommy Soderstrom. I think Dallas was Ed Belfour there when you were there.
No. There was Andy Moog, and I forget who the other guy was. I don't remember.
Andy Moog.
Darcy Wakaluk.
Darcy Wakaluk. Yep.
There you go. You're right.
Yeah, but I think the real treat for you was when you went with the Rangers in your last year to play with a guy like Mike Richter. I mean, your short time there, what was it like playing with Mike Richter?
Oh, he was great. Richter was great. Brian Leach was great. They're really nice guys. And Kevin Stevens was absolutely hilarious, who used to play in Pittsburgh. And I always remember telling them, because when I played with Philadelphia, I was killing the penalty against Pittsburgh. And I remember Mario and Kevin Stevens were on the ice. I forget who their other winger was, but Mario was directing traffic, and I was killing the penalty. And Mario was telling who has this guy, who has that guy. And then Kevin Stevens said, well, what about Fedyk? He goes, who gives a shit what he does? And basically, Mario Lemieux on the power play, you're like, you're probably right. Like, I hate to say it was hard not to start laughing.
And it's funny because the year you were there, you mentioned how good Gretzky was even later in his career. He was 38 that year, still led the team in points with 62. The Ranger team that you were on, that was kind of, I don't want to use the word, it was like the shell, but it was like the final pieces from the 94 team that had won a couple of years earlier. Again, you mentioned Brian Leach, Adam Graves, things like that. And, that was the period of time where Leach was the captain in the 3 years between when Messier had left to go to Vancouver, and then came back. From your vantage point as a teammate, how do you think he handled being the captain there? Only because it felt from a fan's perspective, and I was younger back then, but it felt from a fan's perspective that like it was heavy on him to have replaced Messier, and he was very happy to give it back to him. Messier came back, and a couple years later, it kind of, I don't think it helped him much, frankly, from a fan's perspective.
Are you talking about Brian Leach?
Yes.
Yeah. So, you know what? They were very tight people. So as far as Brian Leach was there and Wayne Gretzky was there, and they'd communicate, there was no ruffle or anything like that. Because those solid guys like Richter, Adam Graves, Leach, Richter, it was kind of almost like a team captaincy.
I could see that.
Yeah. So, Brent, I want to fast forward you a little bit to today's game a little bit. Nate, you talk about the last couple of days. You had the mess out in Lake Tahoe the first day when I don't know whose great idea was to think of an outside game in California. But anyway, they had that long delay. Game went to midnight. I don't know how many people watched it. I watched a little bit of it, then I fell asleep. But and then you had a game there the next day. What do you think of? I mean, I love the outdoor game. I love the idea. I love when they play in like Yankee Stadium and things like that, and they play in cold weather. The first one when they played in Calgary and Winnipeg played. But has it gotten too much? Like I said, you're playing in Northern California. That you can see. That's going to be a tough play. Do you think it's kind of overstretched the bounds a little bit with this?
Sometimes I think it is, because unless they really have the pipes underneath the ice,
yeah.
Right. Well, when the sun beats on the boards and stuff like that, they need to, because it shines back on the ice, and it really makes it treacherous. I remember with the Red Wings, I played here at Comerica, and the ice was absolutely crap. Like, you got near the boards, you never knew what was going to happen.
Oh, wow.
And then again, too, we're a little bit older now, so the legs don't bend as much.
Yeah, you definitely got that right. I played
real treacherous.
Yeah. One more thing. I spent some time in some charity games with a guy who used to play with Doug Crosman, and good guy. Love to talk about his prior teams. I just want to get back to about when you got traded, because he's got some great stories of getting traded. When you get traded from a different team and you go to another team, is it like culture shock? Like you say, it's a new advantage, new chapter when you go from, like, say, Detroit to Philadelphia. But when you get traded once and you start getting traded again and again, is it kind of like, all right, I'm getting traded again, or is it kind of like a culture shock that you get traded and you can't believe you got traded?
No, when you get traded, you know that at least somebody wants you. I mean, for me, it was good because I was in Detroit here, and Mark was here, and Brad Marsh was here, and I actually ended up renting Brad Marsh's house. So it made it here and that, and then obviously playing on, Eric and Recchi's line really made the transition easy for me.
Yeah.
And to that point, Brent. So John watching the show is like, does Brent like shooting left or right-handed? Some right shooting wings prefer to play their natural side, right on the left, right on the right, left on the left, because they can carry the puck along the boards away from defenders. Others like to be off wing, provides a better angle for shooting. So you came up as a right wing, kind of lied and got into the into the left wing, which worked out great for your career.
But
how would you answer that?
In the offensive zone, it's easier to be on the off wing, so that you have a better angle to shoot. And it's in your defensive zone. It's a little more tricky because a lot of times your pass out of your zone is on your backhand. So either you want to go high off the boards, or you just want to, that's where you'd have to protect things a little bit more, so you didn't cough up the puck in your own zone. But I remember playing with Recchi. I think it was my first or second game where he passed me the puck, and we were only maybe 15 feet apart, and Recchi had one of the hardest passes ever. It was like a shot on net. So the first time I come to the bench, I'm like, what the heck was that? He goes, just get used to it, and you'll see, the difference. And it was very true, because he'd pass the puck, so you just had to have your arms looser and give the puck a little bit. But then when you got the puck, the defenseman didn't have his stick in front of it, so he deflected it, or the goalie wouldn't be ready. So like the harder the pass is, I mean, you just got to get used to, receiving them. But once you do that, you have an extra, half second to do something that everyone's not prepared for it.
Now, Bray, you actually, I think you probably played your last game that's almost 21 years ago. From that time till today, I know the game has obviously changed in the way of the speed of the offense. The defense are playing better. The goaltenders, some guys are lights out before. What would you say the one point of the game that really changed a lot since you've last played? Was it more of the offense? Was it more of the defense has gotten a lot better, or like I said, the goaltending has just gotten that much better?
The goaltenders are unbelievable right now. They're so much bigger and everything. There's really no room to shoot. I mean, the sticks they have these days, you can shoot the puck a lot harder with less effort. But I think this is just the training, the speed of training. I know a lot of times as I got older, I was actually getting faster just with the different plyometrics and stuff. And that was 21 years ago. I can't imagine the year-round training they can do now. And I know, like the Red Wings now, because I go to a lot of the games here, because I'm still alumni with the Red Wings, is nutrition and how they take care of their players. Like they practically have a 5-star restaurant and a chef in their dressing room, so they're always fed constantly. And I remember when I started for the Red Wings, I mean, we were lucky to get, because Mr. Illich owned Little Caesars, we were lucky to get pizza. That was it. Not the kind of training and, the drinks they have nowadays just to recoup your body.
Yeah. We actually had local New Jersey boy, Bobby Ryan, on not too long ago in his first stint with the Red Wings before he went up to camp. That was a good talk with him. So.
Okay. And to both your points, the game really has changed so much. You came up, in the 80s, it was, I think, more wide open, a lot more goal scoring. It's a different game. As we got into the mid 90s, and I'm not so sure if the Devils led the way here, but the more of the clutching and grabbing, the neutral zone trap, things like that.
Absolutely.
When you watch the game now, we've had players on. We've had Riley Cote on. We've had Danny Briere on.
Darryl Stanley.
Darryl Stanley. Dan Quinn, who I think you might have played with for one season too in Philadelphia. And there's a lot of very commonality in what they say the game has changed, in that, fighting is what it is, but it wasn't so much that there was fighting, but there was repercussions when you took liberties. Whereas nowadays, the Brad Marchands of the world, like, they can kind of do things, without having to worry about somebody knocking their block off, So when you compare the game today to the game you came up in playing, how do you compare the two?
Yeah, well, there was definitely players could get away with a lot more, so that of course there was only one referee back then too.
Yeah.
So he was looking way. I remember playing in Chicago one time, having to stand in front of the net, and Ben Wilson was a defenseman there, and he had a penalty killing stick that was basically like an oak piece of oak, and he chopped the hell out of you, and the stick would never break, and you'd never get a penalty, but you could barely crawl back to the bench.
Yeah.
So, if anyone took liberties, it was corrected immediately, and that was just the way the game went. Nowadays, you get suspended for 20 games.
Mm-hmm.
So they hit people in the pocketbook. I mean, back when we played, very seldom was there someone that got, a suspension for more than one game, or usually it was like nothing at all. But so suspensions, they kind of take the, how'd you say, that feistiness out of you a little bit when all of a sudden you get like a 15-game suspension.
Yeah. Brent, were you, I'm trying to think back a little bit. Were you on the team with Eddie Hospodar, or was that one? Okay.
Nope.
Okay.
No, he was not.
Yeah, because I know Crosman and I go back and forth when he came onto the ice in the Montreal fight, when it was right before the game, and all hell broke loose with Hospodar starting to fight against Lemieux, and you guys were coming out of the locker room half changed, and Crosman tells me he came out in sandals, and he was scared to death to get stepped on with his skate, and they were trying to hold Hextall back, and he was undressed, and he was throwing stuff on the ice, and it was bedlam. I didn't know if you were part of that or not.
No.
So.
I was there when they traded back for Ron Hextall. So
Okay.
I played junior hockey against Ron Hextall. I played for the Regina Pats, and he played for the Brandon Wheat Kings, and we used to have brawls all the time. And Hexy was just crazy, swinging his stick and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
Like on ice, he was very competitive, and he was, kind of crazy a little bit. You didn't know what was going to happen.
I was a huge Pelly Lindbergh fan growing up, and then unfortunately he passed away. But then, I always say if Pelly didn't pass away, Flyers may have never seen Ron Hextall, and I think Ron Hextall was probably one of the greatest goalies to play for the Flyers next to Bernie.
Absolutely. He using the puck, basically shooting the puck, because I tell you what, he could take a wrist shot harder than half the forwards.
Yeah, and that was my next question with Hextall. I mean, you played there with him, and he's a guy who handles the puck and everything. What do you think about obviously the time you played with Hextall, handling the puck back there, having another player on the ice that can handle the puck and shoot the puck up the ice and get a play started, to now where you have the trapezoid where goalies are kind of handicapped, which I hate personally being a goalie, but I can never handle the puck as well. Hextall.
Very seldom do you get a goalie that can handle the puck as well as was. And then also, before, if you were, coming into forecheck, well, the first one or two guys was just a decoy, because they'd hold you up and, hook you and hold you. Well, nowadays they can't do that. So the goalies don't really have enough time to move the puck very much. And the biggest, as big as they are, they might as well just stay in the net because they cover everything. So I think it's a lot less communication with the defenseman. Right. Which I'm sure they don't like, because now you have guys that you can't hold up, and they're coming at you 100 miles an hour, and then you got this big goalie that's probably 6'8" on his skates. Yeah. You really don't want him to leave, go too far out of the net, because in case he can't get back. That's what basically now to score on a goalie, you just got to move him east and west.
Yeah, Steve Valiquette, who does color commentary for the New York Rangers, he does this thing, we calls it the Royal Road. Is if you have him moving from one side, if you can cross the puck in front of the goalie, the chances of you scoring go up astronomically, just because you do make that movement from side to side. Viewer John Suggs wants to know, which fight do you remember the most? The one with Gruden or the one with Steve Thomas?
Actually these days, unless someone mentions, I don't really remember.
I did see the one with Steve Thomas, Brent, and it was pretty good.
So we'll go with that one then.
There you go. What did your take on this too? So you played in some pretty big markets in your career. Obviously, Detroit, Original Six. The Flyers were in that next wave, but that's a big hockey market. And obviously with New York. But you did spend a year in Dallas as well, and that was only a couple of years after they moved from Minnesota. Yeah. Any color on the differences between playing in what they would say are traditional hockey markets and a place like Dallas, where the league was looking to grow the game?
Well, I think probably the strongest fans were definitely the diehards. Were definitely in Philadelphia and Detroit. I mean, I'll still go out. It's been now 25 years plus that I played in Detroit, and I'll still get recognized. I mean, obviously, I haven't been back to Philly, But I remember Philly that it seems like, you really appreciated your fans because that was their big going. You didn't see anybody. They were your, how'd you say? They were your true fans. They didn't come in suits and everything all dressed up. They were coming there in their jerseys and stuff like that. They were having fun and, they were solid fans.
Yeah, absolutely.
Danny Briere kind of intimated that as well. Like when he was talking about his free agency experience, and he wanted to sign with Philadelphia because, the fans are nuts, and like he thrived on things like that. I think, again, I am a Rangers fan, but I live in this area. I know that Philadelphia fans generally get this bad rap, and it sounds like you kind of agree with that, where those are the kind of guys you want to go out there and lay your body on the line for because they care.
Absolutely. I mean, and just, it's amazing now, like watching some of the games or even last year, the Stanley Cup and the games where you couldn't have fans. Mm-hmm. It's the players, we really feed off the fans. So, I mean, that's what, playoff hockey is so exciting. It's the ooh and on, how the crowd makes it just, it would lighten anybody up. And the players really do appreciate that when the fans are into the games. And I didn't realize how much it meant. I knew I enjoyed it, but then when you watch a game that doesn't have any fans, like last year and stuff, it's like almost like training camp.
So, Brett, my last question to you is, with your time with the Rangers and you were then retired after that and got out of the game, did you know it was your time to leave? Because I know with a lot of athletes, I mean, some people say, well, I can't believe they left and stuff like that, but this is what they do. This is their job. This is what they enjoy doing. This is what they grew up doing. Was it tough for you to walk away, or was it, just a decision that, it's ready. It's time for me.
It was very difficult because when I was in Philly, I broke my neck, and then what always happened to me is one day I'd be good, my leg would be 100%, but then the next day, if I'd lose half the strength in my right leg, and they couldn't really figure out what it was. So basically, when I came back and played in New York, I had to take a lot of medication and everything. So I knew. Like Mario Lemieux could play a game with one leg, half strength. I couldn't get away with that. So I knew it was time, but I was still upset. But, when I was in Philly, I broke my first vertebrae and my third vertebrae, and it was right through the first vertebrae. And basically, I'm very fortunate because most people that break that one right through the artery, usually, they're just drinking soup the rest of their life. So I can't look back and complain too much.
Yeah.
Last question here with John asking again, as a home, I guess, or away, you can answer, I guess it's either way. Was there ever a favorite arena that you played in or one that you found maybe as a visitor that was more intimidating than others?
I wouldn't say intimidating. One that I think everyone, if you grew up in Canada, I'd love playing in Montreal. So it was just because hockey night in Canada, where I grew up in the middle of nowheres, all you had was hockey night in Canada on Saturdays. And either you got Toronto or you got Montreal. So most of the games that I saw were either one of those two rinks. So it was always very special to play in those two rinks. I remember my first exhibition game playing in Toronto. I think it was like 3 minutes into the game, I got a tripping penalty. And then when I heard the announcer, that's the same announcer I've heard since I was like a 5-year-old kid. So I made myself a bet that if I didn't score or anything or get an assist, I was going to take another penalty. But it was like about 3.5 minutes into the game, and I thought it was my last shift, so I was back checking. So I just tripped the guy. Then Dave Lewis, he was the coach, and later when I come, he goes, "That really wasn't a good penalty." And I told him the story. I'm like, after hearing my name, I go, "There's no way I wasn't going out of this rink." So again.
Last question: who's your pick to win the cup in this? Strangest year, it's funny. We said last year was strange. Now we're in this year. It's a little stranger than last. But who do you like right now to walk away with the cup this year?
You know what? I think it's going to be pretty difficult because obviously you're going to have possibly people maybe getting COVID towards the end, your rankings and stuff. So in a shorter season, it's just who gets hot and who stays the healthiest. I think that's what it's going to come down to because there's probably 4 or 5 teams that all have a legitimate chance. You can say they're going to win, but it'll come down to, what if your star player goes down?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I've said that.
COVID, or also you might, lose 2 or 3 people to COVID. So it's going to be interesting how that plays out all the way towards the end.
Yeah, I think I've said the Avs the last 2 years. I've been wrong both times, so that's all right.
You keep saying you'll be right eventually.
Yeah, eventually. I keep saying it. So we want to thank. We know he's running short on time. And with that, Brett,
you can never give up. You got to keep going. Sooner or later, you're going to be right.
Yeah, exactly. One of these days, maybe like 10, 15 years from now, hey, I got to keep going with it. So we want to thank Brent Fedyk for getting on with us and reliving his career and some of the old Flyers memories that I have in some of the game today. Brent, thank you very much for coming on. We really, really appreciate it. We want to get you back on again. And like I said, you owe us a video feed next time. So
we can actually prove it was you, not.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for having me on.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brett. Have a good day.
You too. Bye.
Take care.
So, the crazy 8 line, Brent Fedyk. It's always great going down memory lane, especially with the Flyers with the Eric Lindros and Mark Recchi, and those teams are great.
Listen, I'm a Range fan, but I remember how big that was. The first Lindros year, and to his credit, he was the third guy on that line, but he played just a huge role. Yes, I mean, look, Lindros and Recchi get the glitz and the glamour, but I mean, look, without a guy like Brent Fedyk on that line, a lot of the things don't happen. We talk about like pairs, but like that third guy makes so much of the difference. I mean, whether it was, and even he said he learned playing more defense as he kind of went through. So yeah, he was obviously a very important piece of that, and again, injuries happen. He had some time in Dallas. He went to the Rangers for the end of his career. So he had some more exposure there, but I mean, he caught lightning in a bottle in his time in Philadelphia. And he's a guy who will ever be remembered as a result of that.
Yeah, and you play with two guys like that. I mean, you can't get, they'll just make you better automatically. And it's interesting that when Mark Recchi was traded 2 years later, I believe, after Fedyk left to Montreal, people were, oh my God. Guess what, folks? They got Desjardins and they got Leclerc, who I think turned out pretty well here. So I mean, that was a pretty good trade they made out with. So
do you remember who the Flyers got for him when they traded him to Dallas?
No, I actually don't.
Trent Klatt.
Oh, that's right, Trent Klatt, who was here for probably a year. No, he's probably here for a couple of years.
He had 1 year when he was traded. He had like the one good year.
Yeah, one great year, and I think they gave him an extension. He sucked after that. He was terrible. So yeah. I remember Trent Klatt. Trent Klatt. Oh my God, going down memory lane, looking at all these rosters and stuff. And we talked about the Flyers roster when he was here. You talk about Al Conroy. What a cast of characters some of these guys. Terry Carkner was here. Ryan McGill, Rick Natras. Oh my God, it's just crazy. I look back at these teams like, my God, how are these teams any good? But yeah, it was a different time back then, different time. So I guess we could roll in right into the outdoor game, Brian, since we're talking hockey. I mean,
yeah, listen.
What'd you think of the Tahoe game?
So it was the first period of the Avalanche game looked great.
Yeah,
I mean, remember, this is a weird year, right? Mm-hmm. So you can do things this year that you're not going to want to do in the future. Like you're not going to want to have a hockey game in the middle of nowhere because you don't make money doing that. So they made the best of a bad situation.
Yep.
But at the same, I mean, look, they got their scenery. I mean, those images will last forever. The game itself, not so much. So
it just thinks that there's the East Coast thing, and that I mean, it was on the West Coast, and when they delayed it till 10, out here it's midnight, and a lot of people out here go watch the games at midnight. So,
but that's the thing too, right? So,
right.
People forget. Look, they got lambasted. Oh, hockey! Oh, you didn't think we were going to have sunlight? I'm like, okay, thanks. But like, remember, NBC's paying for this, right? So NBC is the one deciding when this game's going to go.
They're putting the
be real,
right?
So.
I mean, it was great. It was great. I thought the setup was great. I thought where they had it was great. I thought everything about it looked serene, looked great for the outdoor game. Just, after the first period, the rink was like soup. I mean, that was the problem. Out there, like Brett had said, you really got to make sure everything is going to be working properly and just up to the task. And I don't know if they were ready for that. I really don't. I don't know. I think they thought they were, but maybe they weren't. So,
well. Flyers look like dog shit.
Well, they also had 5 guys missing. They probably shouldn't have played the game either. I mean, that's you could say again that they probably should have played the game, but the league tried. They tried to move forward with everything, get it done, and it turned egg on their face. So
avid viewer of the show, Mike Kondrada's close personal friend of mine. We talk a lot. He goes back and forth, likes to give me crap because the Rangers are the Rangers. But I want to ask you this: you watch Flyers games? Look, right now they're 8-4-3. So you know what they are? They're 8-7. They're a playoff team, I feel, in this division. because it's the division.
Yeah.
But you watching their games, if I told you that the advanced stats are not flattering to them, would that surprise you?
No. I mean, people are getting excited about the record and everything. I don't think they've played to that caliber. I think they could play better. They've had games where they come out, like you said, look like total crap and looked awful. But there's been some games out there they get to jump on teams and keep that momentum going. It's just Flyer hockey for the last 2 years, I think. And now people are down on Carter Hart because he looked bad in the outdoor series.
But
as a goalie, you're going to have those games. And Carter Hart's got a bright future. He's a young kid. He's going to take his lumps just like any other goalie did. Patrick Waugh had bad games too, and Brodeur and all these other goalies had it. I mean, not comparing to him, but you're gonna have bad games. So it's gonna happen. You can't put it all on his shoulders.
But when you start looking at under the hood numbers with the Flyers, like if I were in your shoes or Mike's shoes or any of the Flyers, like they would be deeply concerning to me, right? So
they're not set up for the long haul. They're really not.
So for those watching that don't know, and I know that some do, some of these advanced stats give you an idea of the the game beneath the game. There's something called Corsi. Corsi is the percentage in a game of shot attempts that your team takes.
Okay.
Makes sense? So not shots on goal per se, but shot attempts, shots that you miss the net, shots that get blocked, whatever. The idea is that if you have the puck, you're the one shooting. And if the other team is shooting, Mike Velarde with a very insightful comment. They stink.
They stink.
The idea is that the more shots you're taking, the less chance of the puck going in your own net. Makes pretty much sense, right? It's a proxy for possession.
Okay.
As Mike Velarde has duly noted, the Flyers right now are 31st at 5-on-5 in Corsi 4 at 45.03%. So over the course of the season, they have taken only 45% of the shot attempts in the games that they have played. So the other team is pretty much dominating puck possession.
Yeah.
Right. Which puts a strain on your goaltending for one, but it also means that you're not really shooting a lot either. So on top of the fact that they're not controlling the puck, they're also shooting at an absurdly high percentage. They have a 13.1% shooting percentage. That is not normal. No. Right.
No,
so the average is in like the 9 and 10.
They're basically playing catch up in games. They're basically getting dominated early and playing catch up in games.
Well, they're making the most of their shots. But what I'm saying is, if that were to normalize down to 10, 9%, you're scoring less goals. You need to shoot more to keep your goal numbers up. Meantime, the other team's dominating play. And, you see that the logo on my hat. This feels to me exactly like what Alain Vigneault does, because the possession numbers got worse and worse and worse the longer he was there. So this does not surprise me.
So what surprises me, not really surprises me, but we talk about every year, it seems like it's a broken record, but Claude Giroux, he's got 1 goal, he's got 10 assists, but with those 10 assists, you figure with those 10 assists, guys would have more goals. Well, this team doesn't have a lot of goals. I mean, this team, right now is being led by JVR, and maybe Joel Farabee and Kevin Hayes is back up there again, but they're not on fire with goals right now. I'm not saying they should be leading the league, but I thought they would have more goals at this point. Couturier is, I think, struggling, but he's at 7 points.
I don't know what he's saying. Talk about stinks. Oh, talk about I don't know.
I don't know. Is it?
Maybe Giroux. Maybe he means Giroux.
Oh yeah, maybe Giroux. Yeah, I mean, every year is a talk of Giroux. Every year, and we talk about this too. I think they should have got rid of Giroux a couple years ago, but they fall in the same category, I think, of the Phillies. When the Phillies, it was time to get rid of Howard. It was time to get rid of Utley, and it was time to get rid of the main guys on the team because they had just slowed down to a point where they're not the same player they were. The PR people are like, yeah, no, we got to keep them because Philly's going to get crazy. I think that was the whole thing of Claude Giroux, that if they trade him, people are going to get nuts and say, oh, I trade him. Oh, he's done so much. But listen, when the guy is done, you've got to do what's right for your team. Yeah, and that's the problem. Mike, you can't trade that contract. That's the problem. The Flyers have gotten themselves in from the Voracek, even before the Voracek deal. They've gotten themselves into big contracts with monies with no trade clauses. Snyder always used to give the guys no trade clauses because he loved guys. I mean, we had Brian Propp on. He said the same thing. Snyder loved giving guys no trade clauses, but that handcuffs you to move a guy after the fact when you get yourself into a situation like this. Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to give you a hot take.
Yeah.
You ready for this hot take?
Go ahead.
Potentially the best thing long-term for the Flyers is Carter Hart struggling this year. Do you want to know why?
Well, because they'll know that they need more pieces to the puzzle.
Nope.
We'll trade for a veteran goaltender.
Nope. He's due for a contract at the end of the season.
Well, yeah.
He is a restricted.
He's
hey, hold on. Hold the phone. That gives the team some leverage.
Yeah, but I don't know about too much leverage. He's your guy for the future. This team struggled so many years. I mean, you could honestly say on this team, and this is, going back, I know from when you were youngin', but they haven't had a goalie, Brian, since Hextall.
I don't disagree with you.
It's of that caliber. I mean, they've gone through guys like Sean Burke, Van Beesbrook, the guys that, on the way out and stuff. I mean, Robert Esch. I mean, guys that were serviceable, but not the guys for the future. Probably Boucher was probably, even a better goaltender too. But they haven't had a goaltender like this, a young guy that has a real bright future in this league, and they just got to get him some defense and get him maybe a weapon or two, and they could be back in contention again. I'm not saying it's going to be like a Rangers rehaul like they've done over the couple of years.
Well, they're still working. They're still in that process, but
right.
Again, what I'm saying is, and I will tell you this: if I were an NHL player, I would be looking at short-term deals because the cap will eventually go back up. They're getting a new TV deal.
Mm-hmm.
This will fix itself. So I think it hurt myself if I give myself a 6-year deal right now because halfway through it, this cap's going to move back up again, and I'm worth more money. So I wouldn't surprise me if he takes a 2-year bridge deal to get to age 23, whatever it ends up being,
24,
and then looks to break the bank at that point. Like that would not really surprise me.
Sure.
And I think Mike gets my point. He's going to get paid how he plays, may get a discount for sucking ass this year, and that's all I'm saying is that. In the grand scheme of things, are they going to win the Stanley Cup this year? No. And I think anybody who thinks they are is waving the pom-pom. So let's just be real there. They're not getting by Boston. They've shown no idea they're going to get by Boston.
And would they play Boston like 15 times this year? I mean, it's crazy.
And they've gotten their dicks kicked in
every time they play them. Yeah.
So nix that thought right now. So they're going to need the money, right? So Couturier comes due for a deal the same year that Giroux was out. So you can just pick up Claude's money and drop it on Couturier. But the difference is, and this comes back to Hayes, which I will tell you is playing fine. That was never my concern. Too much for too long. But if he says, you know what, Kevin Hayes has 7 years, $50 million. So that's $7 million a year. Carry the one. I'm worth 10. Because you're going to judge yourself against the players that are on your team and the contracts that your team has handed out. So ipso facto, Sean Couturier is going to break the bank no matter when it is. And that's going to be a problem for Philadelphia because, again, you want to keep these young guys together. Sanheim got a bridge deal as well. So cap-wise, in a flat cap, that Hayes deal is going to come back to bite them. Again, not right now. It was never the first couple of years. It was always the back half of that deal. That was the concerning part because of the way he plays, his size. Like, it's not – he doesn't strike me as the kind of player that's going to be has a lot of runway in his career, that longevity. The way that he plays. So, and again, I think he's a second line center. That's what he is.
I'll ask you this about, a guy that I brought up a bunch of times. I know people are going to think I'm nuts, but Sean Couturier. Now, Sean Couturier has been 5 or 6 years in the league and, known as one of those players that's, got great skills and this and all. I was an advocate 3 years ago for trading him because his trade value was high. Now, people could say, look what he is, this and that. Okay. But where are the Flyers at right now with him? They're in the same boat that they are in before. If they're going to get something for something, that's a guy that you can move to get a lot of value for. But the problem is, too, you got to get good value for him. That's the problem.
He is the number one center. Those don't grow on trees. Believe me when I tell you, my team's having problems with it right now. So, listen, I don't foresee a road or a path which leads them to move him. I can understand the apprehension to giving another long-term deal to a contract, to a player, another long-term contract, because those do have the potential to blow up in your face. But Patrick has not materialized. Which again, I mean, if you go back to that draft year, I had said he's a second line center on a good team, And that's what he could be. That's what I think he's going to be. But then, you have Hayes. These guys aren't number one centers. So you would leave a large hole there.
The problem with this team is in general is the deals of contracts. So just they get themselves in a lot of trouble with no trades and long-term deals, and it just handicaps them. Like Mike said, they've been doing this for years and they don't learn. You think after the Voracek deal, after that, big money deal they gave him for 7 years, it's a worthless deal. And you can't move these guys after that. Nobody wants to take on all that money. So that's the problem you have. I mean, they tried to get rid of Brzgalov for years as a goalie. Who signs a goalie for that long of a time?
Well, that was Edward.
Worst goalie deal ever?
Yeah.
Rob DiPietro.
I might be worse.
No, Rob DiPietro was bad. That was 10 years. 10 years he got a boatload of cash. I think he only made 3 or 4 years of the deal, not even. And then he got sent down, and that was a train wreck, that deal.
We'll see. Like I said, I think they're a playoff team. I think what's happening is the 3 teams that we thought coming in, I think everybody kind of agreed. You had Boston, Washington, Philadelphia, Islanders, Pittsburgh, everybody else. So I think Boston's obviously numero uno, is a muddled middle there. I think the Flyers get in. If they're 2 or 3, they might win a playoff round. I think Boston is a buzzsaw. I think Boston's out of the division. I don't think it's close. And I think everybody's going to be a lot happier when they're out of this division next year because they're a very good hockey team.
I think Mike's corrected me. I thought I said Rick DiPietro. I thought maybe I said Rob. I don't know. I apologize, Mike. I thought it was Rick.
Known as the Rick. No.
I thought I said Rick DiPietro. Maybe I said Rob. I don't know. Whatever. That's fine. But what do you think of what do you think of your boy coming back to Washington?
He's not playing this year.
Yeah.
Oh, Hank, he's not playing this year.
Yeah, he's getting some work. I saw him in some videos. He looks like he's getting some work.
He's just open heart surgery. God bless him.
Yeah, it's pretty ballsy. I mean, he had open heart surgery about 2 months ago, 3 months ago. He's back on the ice already. Wow, good for him. Well, he's only got a 1-year deal, though, doesn't he?
Yeah, I don't know where it goes. I don't.
He could be just training with him, maybe.
I think
he's got pads. He's got the mask set up for it. So
yeah, I think he goes back in the front office in New York. I think that's his modus operandi.
I mean, unless all this stuff was set up for his trip to Washington in the original, and then all that happened, and that was it. So.
Elephant in the room, obviously, is a story with Artemi Panarin. For those who don't know, which we did report it, taking a leave back from the team following accusations from Mother Russia, which is obviously, very, very cut and dry, very, very black and white, up and up politically. That
2011, correct?
Yeah, 10 years ago. Chicken a bar. So the guy Nazarov, I believe is how you pronounce his name. He was a coach of Vityaz, which he was on. Said this happened in a bar, so on and so forth. So from everything that I've been able to gather, including reporters on the ground, KHL reporting, players who played for that team, none of this ever happened. But here's one. That's not why. The players don't care, and that they don't make a lot of money over there. So believe me, I tell you, the players could not care less. None of that happened. And this is because he opened his mouth and was not. He didn't bend the knee and kiss the ring for Vladimir Putin, who is the Russian president forever. So this is kind of how they do things over there. So again. The Rangers came out, this is unsubstantiated. There's nothing here. This is all ridiculous. And in time, it'll make its way. I think he's more concerned for his family's well-being, being that they're still over there in this environment. Anyway, this is the craziest year for the Rangers. So again, I'm on record. I do not care what they do. I am perfectly fine taking another high draft pick because the money comes with the books next year and they move on. What I would tell anyone who is looking at Lafreniere's goal scoring or what Kakko is doing, I would ask them a couple of questions. I would say, well, who are they playing with? The answer is no one. There's major injuries on the team, including Filipino. So they had no third line center, barely have a second line center. First line center sucks this year. He's got to figure that out. Maybe next year he will.
They're also young guys. I mean,
and that's the other thing.
Playing in the NHL. I mean, that's a whole different level.
It is some of the most irresponsible clickbait nonsense reporting to be like, oh, Alexi Lafreniere is a bust. I'm sorry. He's 16 games into his career at age 19 in the weirdest goddamn year we're ever going to remember. The guy has not played in front of a live studio audience.
Right. That's like saying, when Lindros came in the first 15, 20 games, oh my God, he's not getting hat tricks every night. I mean, come on. The guy, first time in the league. I mean, stop.
Everybody just goes 6 to midnight.
It's the same thing with any pro athlete coming out of college or the minor leagues. They go from here to here. It's a whole different level. It's not just moving up another peg. It's moving up a whole lot of speed, whole lot of different guys, a whole lot of guys that have the best ability in the world play in these leagues. And to keep up with them is a chore and a half. That's why guys work out all the time. They do what they can nutrition wise. And, for them to just step in and think they were just going to light it up and lead the league in scoring, that's a big farce. I mean, you want to say that next year in the third year? All right, you see how better they go. You see if they keep moving the needle. That's all I say.
Listen, my level of concern is this much. It is 0. I have no concern. I have no concern about Lafreniere, no concern about Kakko. Things are working just fine. Look at the advanced numbers if you don't believe me. You can
once they get comfortable and they get inundated with the same people and they're going to get comfortable. They're going to
I've got a lot more concern for Zibanejad than I do for Kakko or Lafreniere because he is not the COVID thing really got him, and he has not been himself. And I gotta figure that out.
It's a weird year. I'm interested to see how baseball is going to handle this too.
But if he's not himself, they have a absolute gargantuan Grand Canyon hole at center. Down the lineup. I mean, like they were counting on him to be the guy, and he was the guy last year. Very good last year. Mm-hmm. This year, not himself. So honestly, I couldn't care less what they do. Go pick high. Go get me Kent Johnson out of Michigan. I'm totally on board for it.
You get the number 1 pick again. I'm gonna flip. Could happen.
Kent Johnson's like 6'7". That's kind of where they'll be.
Okay.
So trying to keep you awake. That's okay. Anything else on your mind? Again, I just want to, and special thanks again to Brent Fedyk, who took some time with us tonight. We really do appreciate it.
We could quickly talk about, the incident today with Tiger Woods. I mean,
yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
we don't know the whole, what thing happened. I mean, I hope he's okay. And, I've been getting texts and stuff all day saying, it's your best wish. No, listen, I don't wish any ill will on anybody. It is what it is. I don't want the guy to be hurt. I don't want the guy to be, maimed for any reason. I hope he's okay. People don't know what happened. It sounds like he hit, from what they're saying in the LA report, that he hit a median and went across 2 lanes and rolled the vehicle. I don't know what happened to speed and he got cut off. I don't know what happened, but I heard he's got some injuries to his legs. He was in surgery today. Don't know the extent of them. I don't know if they're broken. They're whatever the case may be. I hope Tiger Woods has speedy recovery. The PGA needs him, wants him back. So I hope he is okay and everything's good. I just want to find out what happened. That's all. But of course they get on the TV and you hear people talking. They're like, "Oh, it's a tragic incident." Well, listen, you know what tragic is? Tragic means he passed away. He's not.
No, his career is over.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the thing that's scary though, Brian, is he's had his 5th back surgery 2 months or 3 weeks ago. He has 5th back surgery. I'm interested to see how that's going to turn out, because with this accident, did that screw everything up again, or is, his legs broken, everything else is fine? I mean, guys have come back from that before, so who knows? I mean, Tiger Woods done it before. He's proved the impossible. He's come back from so many back surgeries, and
I mean, this is no joke, man.
No, I know. No, I think he might have screwed up his back a little more now, especially coming off a major surgery like that. But
yeah,
so you'll hear about in the next couple of weeks what happens.
Yep. So, well, the calendar will soon be turning into March, which means we'll be getting very much into the NFL draft, which is one of the best times of year. We have a lot to unpack as we kind of go through this first round.
And I picked last this year. That's a beautiful thing.
Aren't you special?
I'm still waving the flag. Go Bucks. That's it. So we want to thank you for watching us tonight. We really appreciate it. We are here every Tuesday at 8:30 for the Highly Opinionated Show. Thanks again to Brent Fedyk for getting on and going down memory lane and talking about all his time in the league and what he thinks of the league now. So, of course, for myself, Hammonton Mike.
Well, before you wrap, again, really quick shout out to our friends over at CrowdPlay.
Oh, CrowdPlay. Sorry about that. Yep.
www.getcrowdplay.com or CrowdPlay.com. The information is on our website. Use our code, the THEBMX, get 10 free points. And our newest sponsor, Showcase Sports, right here in our hometown of Hammonton. If you're in the South Jersey area, got to check them out on 12th Street, right in the center of the blueberry capital of the world. Tell them we sent you. They do a lot of great screen printing, a lot of great athletic needs, baseball bats, the whole nine. They have everything you're going to need. Check them out for sure. Let them know that, again, let them know we sent you.
Yeah, absolutely. So now, again, for myself, Hammonton, Mike Galetta, and Brian the Ranger Retard, and the highly opinionated crew, thank you for watching us. We will catch you next week. Have a good week, folks. See you.
See you.
Thank you for watching this episode of the highly opinionated show on the Sports Box. Please remember to follow us on all of our social media outlets. On Facebook at SportsBox Show, Twitter at SportsBox Show, Instagram at The SportsBox Show. Find us on YouTube and join Outside the Box, our Facebook sports discussion group. The Sports Box is brought to you by our sponsor, Showcase Sports in Hammonton. Showcase Sports for the elite athlete. And also our friends over at CrowdPlay. Download the free CrowdPlay app today and use promo code THEBOX at sign up for 10 free points. Thank you for joining us.